This particular section is dedicated to opening and executing files. Within the Radonix system, you have the capability to execute two distinct types of files. Firstly, there are DXF files, which are typically the direct output generated by various design software applications, essentially representing a two-dimensional design file. Secondly, you can also process standard G-code files, which might originate as the output from specialized software like ProNest, or indeed from any other compatible software program. Now, we'll go ahead and click on Open here. If we happen to select a DXF file, then the DXF reader window will automatically open up for you. So, all the components that are in your file will be displayed, and then you have tools available that allow you to actually select which shapes should be executed, which ones should not be, and in what direction they should run. I'll now introduce each of these keys to you. The Zoom Fit key is for when you've made your project larger or smaller. It will then automatically fit it to the screen. The Zoom Out key, the Zoom In key, selecting the reference location, which is essentially your 0 point. You can choose any of the 4 corners as your origin point, and the first point, which is considered the initial point of your design. Now, in this file, the initial design point for our layout has actually been made identical with this specific corner. And if I were to simply deactivate this particular shape right now, you would immediately observe that its position will change. If we place this here, on the left bottom, it will return to this exact position. We have the keys for rotation and for mirroring along the X and Y axis. Rotation, specifically 90 degrees clockwise and counterclockwise. We have 3 distinct keys here, which are essentially for choosing the arrangement order of your elements. The default arrange key, if you click on it, will ensure that all the individual components within your file are executed precisely in the predetermined default sequence that was originally established and drawn in your design file. So, if in your design file you have drawn this object first, then this one, and then this one, essentially, if it remains in this configuration, it will begin its execution precisely in that sequence. If you need to alter the actual cutting order of the components, you can select the Arrange Object option, and all the parts will then become inactive. By left-clicking on the actual segments, you can select which of these pieces will be played. By right-clicking on those same segments, you can reverse the direction of the cut. Now you can see that every time I right-click, its rotation direction changes. The third key is for this. We've selected the 6 segments that were important to us. The remaining segments aren't important. They can be played in a random order. When you press the Select Object key, the rest of the segments will be added to the sequence. So, I'll mark here 1 nature. And if you don't actually need to, you just want to select a few specific shapes. Then you simply pick those and continue with your work. The Optimize key, this O that's labeled Optimize right here, actually, it determines the sequence and the cutting pattern of the parts in such a manner that the machine performs with the absolute minimum displacement. Now, if you observe carefully, you will notice that initially it plans to cut this specific segment, then this one, and then the next. However, once we press the Optimize button, you will clearly see that the system intelligently selects the shortest possible path to the very first segment, then proceeds to the subsequent piece and continues this pattern, ultimately ensuring the absolute minimum travel distance for the entire operation. Polyline only displays the shapes that are drawn as polylines, and it removes the lines that are not polylines. Now, here in this drawing, since all the lines are polylines, activating and deactivating it makes no difference. On the next option we have available here is the Show Traverse Line feature. This particular function is designed to actually display the traverse lines, or as they're also referred to, the non-cutting lines. And it also effectively allows you to clear them from the display. Now, this is primarily used for carrying out. You can enable or disable this display order. It has no effect on the actual work or the final output. It's just a visual option. Velocity, in fact, indicates your cutting speed during the program's execution. This means that whatever speed you input here, the program will then perform the cutting operation at precisely that same speed, which is measured in millimeters per second. The Save and Open button means that simultaneously, as this file is opened for you, you can save it to a specific location. This way, in subsequent executions, you won't actually need to define the layout arrangement or the speed. Always have it ready, or actually provide the prepared file to the operator. The next option is just open. This means if you click it, it won't save it anymore. It will directly open the file, it will just open the file. Now we will look at third option. This option is actually to close. If you click it, it just closes the window without opening the file, having no effect.